Ever heard the term live mannequin? It's a real thing, folks. And it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the world of fashion modeling.
That's right. And buckle up because today we're diving deep into this world. We're talking about the skills, the challenges, the technology, the whole nine yards.
And we've got a treasure trove of insights to guide us thanks to RoleCatcher, the career gurus for everything from A to Z in this field. You provided us with some really interesting excerpts.
Absolutely. Get ready to have your preconceived notions challenged because believe me, there's a lot more to it than just looking good in front of a camera.
Speaking of which, that's actually a great place to start. One of the first things that jumped out at me in RoleCatcher's materials was how fashion models these days, they're not just showcasing clothes anymore.
Right.
We're talking everything under the sun, from cosmetics to, get this, appliances.
Appliances, you say?
Appliances,
See,
seriously.
it's a fascinating shift, isn't it? It really speaks to the broader role that models are playing in our increasingly visual culture.
Okay, so appliances, I mean, that's a far cry from, like, strutting down a runway in couture. So what's driving this trend? And more importantly, what skills do models need to be that versatile, to go from, like, high fashion to refrigerators?
Well, I think at its core, it's all about the art of persuasion. Whether we're talking about a high-end dress or a state-of-the-art refrigerator, the goal is the same: to make the consumer aspire to that lifestyle, to see themselves using that product. And who better to embody that aspiration than a model?
That's a really good point.
And RoleCatcher really hits home the importance of not just looking the part, but also effective communication, being able to collaborate with creative teams, and crucially, maintaining your composure under pressure.
It's like acting in a way, wouldn't you say? You have to embody a brand, a feeling. It's not just about, looking pretty.
Absolutely. It's about embodying a persona. And this becomes even more important as technology continues to reshape the industry.
Well, and that's actually what I find so interesting, this whole intersection of technology and modeling. What kind of impact are we talking about here?
It's huge. RoleCatcher points out that models today, they can't just strike a pose. They need to understand different cameras, lighting setups, even photo editing software.
Wow. So they're like one-person production crews these days.
Precisely. And then there's the whole social media aspect, which, let's be honest, is unavoidable these days. Maintaining a strong online presence, it's not optional anymore. It's essential.
Which makes sense. I mean, so much of our lives play out online now. So if you're going to be the face of something, you have to have that digital presence. It's not enough to just be a beautiful face in a magazine anymore.
Right. It's about connecting with audiences directly, building a following, essentially marketing yourself. It's a whole new dimension to what it means to be a model in the digital age.
And speaking of challenges, RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from the not-so-glamorous side of the industry either.
Right. It's not all glitz and glamour, is it?
Not at all. They talk about intense competition, the pressure to maintain a certain physical appearance, the erratic work hours, and even the potential for exploitation.
Yeah, those are all very real issues. Very real issues. And it's important for aspiring models to go in with their eyes wide open. This industry demands a lot, both physically and emotionally.
So with all that said, let's say someone is up for the challenge. They're determined to make it in this world.
Yeah.
What does a typical career trajectory look like, according to RoleCatcher?
Well, it's definitely a process. It's not something that happens overnight. RoleCatcher actually breaks it down into distinct stages, starting with, assisting more established models, kind of like an apprenticeship, if you will, and then moving on to junior modeling gigs.
So you're not just born a supermodel.
Exact
You
that.
work your way up the ladder.
It takes dedication, hard work. And as you gain experience and build your portfolio, you can then progress to full-fledged modeling. And if you're fortunate and strategic, eventually to senior model status.
Senior model, that sounds impressive. What does that entail? Is that like being the wise sage of the modeling world?
In a way, yes. Senior models often take on those mentoring roles, guiding newer faces. They might land those coveted brand ambassadorship deals, leveraging their experience and influence.
So let's rewind a bit, back to those early steps. What does RoleCatcher recommend for someone just starting out, someone hoping to, like, catch the eye of a top agency?
It's all about building a strong portfolio. That's key. Think of it like your visual resume.
Which makes sense, but in an industry saturated with beautiful people, what makes a portfolio stand out?
That's the million-dollar question. It's about showcasing your versatility. Can you rock different looks? Can you embody different styles? It's also about showing your unique personality. Agencies and clients, they want to see that spark.
So it's not just about fitting a mold, it's about having that special something that sets you apart.
Precisely. And we can't forget the power of collaboration. Working with talented photographers, those who really understand the industry, it can make all the difference.
So no bathroom selfies with a peace sign then.
Let's just say those won't be winning over any top agencies.
Yeah.
This is about presenting yourself as a brand, as someone who understands the assignment.
Yeah, it sounds like it takes a lot of hustle, even in those early days.
Definitely. You've got to put yourself out there, go to castings, network, build relationships.
And probably develop a thick skin along the way.
Resilience is key in this business. Rejection is part of the game, even for those with that ridiculously good-looking factor we talked about.
So you're pounding the pavement, you're building your portfolio, you've even mastered the art of the perfectly lit selfie for social media. But at some point, you've got to get noticed by those who matter, right? The agencies. So what's that process like?
Wow. It's a journey, that's for sure.
So we're talking about those agencies,
Mm.
right? Like the gatekeepers of the modeling world, the ones who can make or break a career.
Absolutely. They're the bridge between the model and the client, the ones who open those doors to the coveted campaigns and runway shows and all of that.
Okay, so you're that aspiring model, your portfolio's polished, you've got your, Instagram game going on. How do you get on their radar? Is it like those open call cattle calls that you see in the movies?
Well, those do exist, but honestly, it's often a lot more nuanced, a lot more strategic than that. It's less cattle call and more, how are you curating your own brand?
So less about standing in line and more about standing out online.
Exactly. A strong portfolio is essential. We've talked about that, but agencies are also looking at your social media presence now. It's like this digital first impression, what's your engagement like? Are you authentic? Do you have the potential to reach a wide audience?
So that whole building your brand thing, that's not just for, influencers selling detox tea. It's for aspiring models too.
100%. It shows you understand the business side of things as well. You're not just relying on them to build your career for you. You're being proactive.
So how do you walk that line
Yeah.
between showcasing your personality but also remaining professional?
Authenticity is key. Share what you're passionate about. Give people a glimpse behind the scenes, your journey in the modeling world. Make it personal, but keep it classy.
And no duck lip selfies. Got it. So you've piqued their interest online, maybe slid into a few DMs. What's the next step?
Well, this is where that old school networking comes in. It's still so important. Attending industry events, workshops, maybe reaching out to people you admire for informational interviews. Those personal connections can be so valuable.
It's all about building relationships, even in the digital age.
Right, building those relationships.
But let's be real, the modeling world is cutthroat, so how does an agency actually decide who they sign?
It's a mix of factors, but ultimately they're looking for potential. They want someone they believe they can build a successful career for.
So it's not just about being photogenic, it's about being careergenic.
Exactly. They're looking at your look, obviously, but also your professionalism, your work ethic, how you fit with their existing roster and their clientele. It's a business decision at the end of the day.
They're making an investment, hoping you're going to book those big gigs. So what happens once you're signed? Is it all like champagne wishes and red carpets?
Oh, I wish. A typical day can be anything but typical, let me tell you. It's a whirlwind of castings, fittings, photo shoots, sometimes even runway shows, and you've still got to keep up that online presence we talked about.
Sounds exhausting, glamorous, and maybe a tad overwhelming all at the same time.
That's the modeling world in a nutshell. And while the agency is there to act as your guide, your advocate in the industry, there's still a lot of responsibility on the model's shoulders.
Speaking of responsibility, what about the financial side of things? How do agencies make their money? Are they taking a cut of every paycheck?
Well, yeah, agencies work on commission. That's standard. So they'll typically take a percentage of the model's earnings for the jobs that they book and manage for them.
Which makes sense. They're handling the negotiations, contracts, scheduling, all of that.
Exactly. They're your agent, your manager, your publicist, all rolled into one. They're your advocate, your support system, your link to the industry. But it's important to remember it's a two-way street.
So the model is not just a pawn in all of this.
Right. It should ideally be a collaborative relationship. Open communication is so important. A good agency is going to involve the model in the decisions about their career trajectory, the type of jobs they take on, even the clients that they work with.
So it's a partnership, not a dictatorship.
Exactly.
which makes finding the right agency even more important.
Oh, absolutely crucial.
But how do you even begin to navigate that world? It feels like a secret society sometimes.
It can, but information is power. Talk to other models, get their insights and recommendations, see which agencies have a good reputation for, treating their models well and helping them build their careers.
So we've talked about those traditional agencies, building your portfolio, networking, all that good stuff. But something tells me there's like a whole other side to this whole modeling world now.
You're right. We can't talk about modern modeling without addressing the elephant or maybe the influencer in the room, social media.
Right. It's like its own universe.
Exactly.
Last time we were about to dive into how those online platforms are kind of shaking things up, maybe even like blurring the lines a bit.
It's really fascinating to see, actually. Remember how we talked about agencies being the traditional, gatekeepers of the industry?
Right. They're the ones who get you in.
Social media is like this whole other entrance to the party, one that you can build and control yourself.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying you don't necessarily need an agency to get noticed anymore.
Well, it's not quite that simple. Agencies, they still have those deep-rooted connections, the industry knowledge, that's invaluable. But platforms like Instagram, TikTok, they've given models a way to build their own personal brands, connect directly with their audiences, maybe even attract brand deals without needing that middleman.
Wow, that's incredibly empowering,
Right, you have a lot more control.
but also probably a little daunting, right? It's like the Wild West out there.
It's a double-edged sword, that's for sure. On the one hand, it's never been easier for aspiring models, especially from underrepresented backgrounds, to get noticed, to put themselves out there.
Right. And we're seeing a lot more diversity because of that, right? In terms of like body types, ethnicities, even just what we consider beautiful these days. It's refreshing.
It really is. Social media has been huge in challenging those traditional beauty standards, giving a platform to people who, maybe wouldn't have fit the mold before. But, and this is a big but, it's not enough to just be photogenic anymore.
So what's the secret sauce? Is there like a formula for success in this digital age of modeling?
I wish I had a simple answer for you. You still need that strong visual presence, of course, but you also need business acumen. You're essentially an entrepreneur.
Right, you're building your own brand.
Exactly. You have to understand content creation, engagement strategies, maybe even a little about data analytics.
So you're not just a model, you're the photographer, you're the stylist, you're the social media manager, you're a marketing guru.
Welcome to the gig economy of the modeling world. It's demanding, sure, very competitive, but it also offers a level of creative control and potential for income that the traditional modeling world it never could.
It's amazing how much those two worlds are like colliding and kind of like blurring into one. But with all this focus on the digital realm, do you think there's a risk that like traditional modeling will just become obsolete? Will we all be strutting down virtual runways in the metaverse someday?
Now, wouldn't that be a sight? I don't know about that, but I do think there will always be a place for real-world modeling. There's a certain magic to seeing clothes come to life on an actual human. The artistry of a photo shoot, the energy of a runway show, that's pretty hard to replicate digitally.
Yeah, plus like my internet connection could never handle a front row seat at virtual fashion week.
Right. But in all seriousness, it's not about one replacing the other. It's about these worlds merging, creating new opportunities, definitely new challenges, and honestly, it's requiring a whole new set of skills from these models if they want to thrive.
This has been so interesting. We've gone from live mannequins to tech-savvy entrepreneurs, from like those traditional agencies to the wild world of influencer marketing. It's clear that this industry is anything but static, which I guess is true for most industries these days.
That's what makes it so exciting. And for any aspiring models out there, those who are up for the challenge, those who are willing to adapt and evolve, the future's looking pretty bright.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. If the fashion world is a reflection of ourselves, of our values, maybe all of this change is a good thing. Maybe it's a sign that we're embracing individuality, diversity, and an ever-evolving idea of what beauty really is. Until next time, stay curious, stay stylish, and keep on diving deep.